Hi guys, and welcome back to Jay's Auto Detailing. Thanks for tuning in to the channel. If you're not subscribed already, be sure to hit that button. I've got a lot of content that I put out in the past on detailing and just some cool cars that we've worked on. And we're at the end of the summer now, early fall, and we worked on a ton of really awesome cars this summer. We were super busy. Just didn't have time to sit down and make a full-length video. Put out a lot of shorts just kind of showcasing some of the work that we did. I'm gonna try to get back into the swing of things here and make some videos. So this one in particular is going to be on what you see behind me. 68 Camaro, just came in, customer just dropped it off, and he's looking to get it cleaned up. We're going to do a ceramic coating on the exterior, and we're going to do an interior detail and also clean up the engine bay for him. Now, he did tell me that this car was painted about 15-20 years ago, and he has never had it detailed. He's just kind of cleaned it up on his own, so he's really looking forward to what this vehicle is going to look like when we are finished with it. Before I do get started on the Camaro though, you can see behind me, this was yesterday's project, a 23 Hellcat wide body. The customer just bought it. There's like 500 miles on it and he was ready to get it protected. So we wound up going with our 2-year Jade Ice ceramic coating on the complete exterior. That paint was in excellent shape to begin with, just needed a basic polish. Let me take you around that one real quick and then we'll get rolling on this Camaro. So according to the customer of this 68 Camaro, it's usually inside of his garage, but he just wound up purchasing a 68 Corvette, which is going in for restoration, and the Camaro got kicked out and sat outside under his carport. So it's got a lot of dirt and dust. It's kind of collected all over the paint. It even feels pretty rough, almost like sandpaper. So it's gonna need a good scrubbing on the outside before we even get down to see what the actual paint looks like. Through the dirt though, a little bit, I could see that there's quite a few scratches. I mean, if this car really was painted 15 to 20 years ago, it's been wiped down a lot. Sure, we're gonna wind up doing a full paint correction on this before the ceramic coating is applied. There are a couple trouble spots that the owner showed me beforehand when he did drop it off, so I'll show you that in the video too. So I'm just curious, I'm going to run my light over the black section of this top of the fender and the hood, and yeah, we could definitely see there's going to be a lot of work that goes into this paint. Interior just a little dirty. It's going to need a good vacuum, good scrub down. We'll shampoo the carpets and the floor mats, treat all the panels, clean the windows, door jambs. Here's a look under the hood. We'll be detailing this too, so it looks like we'll be giving it a good steam clean, wipe down the inner fenders, firewall, maybe polish those valve covers. Just needs some loving under here too. Not crazy dirty. It's not like it's all greased up or anything, but it just needs to be gone over. So we'll get that shining up too. So the plan of attack for the exterior of this is going to be to rinse it first, and then we're going to foam it with 3D pre-soak. Just kind of let it loosen up anything that's on there. If you listen to my hand run across the roof of this car, it is rough. It sounds like sandpaper. So this has been sitting outside for some time, and it's gathered up a lot of material that's kind of adhered itself to the paint. So we want to loosen that up the safest way so we don't put any more of those marks and marring into the paint itself and just cause more work for ourselves. So I'm just going to mix up a little concoction here of some 3D pre-soak. So this is pretty heavily concentrated. I'll just add a little bit into the foam can. This is going to help loosen up any of this dirt and dust and everything else that's kind of accumulated all over the surface of this car. So we want to loosen that up before we start to wash it off here and introduce wash mitt to the surface, because we don't want to be grinding that stuff into the paint and creating more issues and defects in the surface of the paint than what's already there. We know that there's going to be a lot of work that's going to go into buffing this paint out, and we don't want to add more to the issue. So this is ready to go. I'm going to rinse the car off first, and then I'll come back over and grab this foam cannon, hook that up to the pressure washer, give it a nice foam bath, and then we'll be ready to give it a good scrub. So definitely loosened up a lot of the dirt. If you saw me dragging my hand across the roof where I showed you earlier, it's definitely feeling a lot smoother. I'm sure there's still a lot of contaminants that are stuck to the paint, which we'll get to after it's dried, but it definitely loosened up whatever was on there. Also, you can see the wheels, the tires are turning yellow. That's just from the pre-soak. So we're gonna rinse this, and then we'll come back and give the tires a scrub. We'll clean those white letters and also clean the wheels themselves. I haven't really got any new products. It's basically the same stuff that I've been using in all of my videos that I've uploaded. The other thing that I just started using not too long ago is a white wall and white letter cleaner from Superior Products. So it's just in a regular spray bottle. You spray it on a tire, you'll see it start to yellow. So it's breaking down all that grime that's stuck to the surface of the tire. And we've been having some pretty good luck with this stuff. You can see there, it's just right away breaking all that tire shine and grime that's stuck to the surface of the tire. And then some brake buster in a IK sprayer. We've been using that for quite a while now. But these wheels actually aren't as dirty as I originally thought. They were just kind of dusty from sitting. But I think after they're cleaned up, they're not going to look too bad. They may not need any polishing like I originally thought. I used to have a set of these same wheels on my Camaro, and it was like twice a year I would be polishing them. The aluminum kind of get a little haze to it, and to me they just needed to be redone over and over and over again. And these don't look too bad. There's a little bit of haziness to them, so we might do a little test spot later on in this detail and see if we could add a little more life to the wheels. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and clean the other two wheels, and then I'll meet you back up front for the decontamination process. Okay, so the next step in the cleaning process here to prepare the paint for us to polish, or even if we're just adding a wax or a sealant or a ceramic coating, we want this surface to be as clean as possible. And judging by what it looked like before and still what it feels like, it's not 100% clean. So you could use a clay bar on this. I prefer to use clay mitts. So this one is from the Rag Company. I also have clay mitts from Nanoskin. And what I'm going to do to use, you always want to use a lubricant so that you're not going to mar up the surface with the clay bar or the clay mitt. What I use for a lubricant is just some iron decon. I specifically use Meguiar's iron decon. So I'll spray the surface, and if you're not familiar with an iron decon, what it's going to do is break down the iron deposits that are on the surface of the paint. So you'll see that change to purple. It almost looks like the paint is bleeding, especially on the sides. The brakes will kick up a lot of brake dust, and it'll be down the side of the vehicle. But we've also had a lot of newer vehicles that come in with less than 500 miles on them that are covered with brake dust. And it's just from the shipping process coming to or from the dealerships, whether it's on a truck or on a train, that brake dust is in the air and it's going to stick to the surface of the paint. So this iron decon is what's going to help remove that. But at the same point, I'm also using it as a lubricant on the surface for my clay mitt. So I'm just going to spray it on the surface around the entire vehicle. I'll start here on the hood, and we're just going to let that sit on there for a little bit and work into whatever contaminants are stuck to the paint here, and then we'll lightly go over the surface with the clay mitt. So I'm just going to go down the side of the vehicles while we wait for that to set up, and then you'll see how quickly it is to go over the entire vehicle with the clay mitt. It's definitely a time saver. You get a lot of use out of them. They're very easy to clean. They have perforations in them, so you could just kind of hose them off and reuse them on the next vehicle. Now on this vehicle, it's going to be hard to see if there's any change to purple, maybe a little bit on the white stripes. But as I run my hand over the paint, there's definitely some contaminant stuck to it. So we'll give this a good coat. Very lightly over the surface, and I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick it up, but you could hear the roughness in the paint. Let me bring it in a little closer, and you could hear how rough this paint is. Now when you're claying a vehicle, you're trying to get everything removed from the surface and not hear that noise on the paint. I even like to go over the windows because there's still going to be some stuff stuck to those as well. And we're going to be coating the windows, so we want those to be just as clean as the paint. There are some tiny tar globs that are down here behind the front tire on both sides, so we'll address that with a tar remover after I get the entire vehicle rinsed. So I didn't get a chance to show you on the front stripes on the hood, but you could see here on the trunk lid on the white stripes, there's a lot of purple happening here. So that means that there were some iron deposits that were on not only the white, basically the whole vehicle is going to be covered. If we have them back here on the trunk lid, there were some on the hood, so it's going to be just about everywhere. I went around the whole car and clay barred, or I should say clay mitt, went over the whole thing. Like I mentioned, down the bottom, down in these areas here, all across the bottom rocker, there's some small pieces of tar that got kicked up, so I'll get to those right after I rinse the car off. as I mentioned, down the bottom here, still some rough spots, some tar that got kicked up from the tires. You know, the owner said it hasn't been detailed in quite some time, painted 15, 20 years ago. I'm sure him not detailing it or not taking it somewhere, a lot of this stuff's been sitting on there for quite a while. So while the car is still wet, I haven't dried anything yet. I'm gonna go head over all of this down both sides and behind the back tires and get any tar that's kicked up off of the paint. So I'll just spray a little bit on the area, let it sit for a little bit, and we'll just kind of wipe it off. I just use a microfiber towel, nothing crazy. These pretty much get junked afterwards if there's a lot of tar that's going to be wiped off. This is from Stoner, Tar and Sap Remover. I had really good luck with this. It's pretty gentle on the paint, so you know, you let it sit on there for a little while, you're not going to cause any damage. We're about ready to wipe this off, and any of that tar that was on there, if this car was a lighter color, you'd see like the tar kind of running down the paint. I'm not really getting much on my towel because the majority of it did come off when I clayed it. But there are some stubborn spots here. And then after I'm done wiping this down, there's still a lot of residue that's on there from the tar remover, so I'll just give it another rinse before I do go back and dry the entire car off. Kind of just use my thumbnail and my glove to just loosen up any harder globs that are on there. But this feels nice and smooth now. One more wipe and we'll give it a quick rinse here. Those white spots, I don't know if the camera's picking up the white spots, it might be out of range, but we've got some rock chips that are down there. We'll address those after we get the entire car polished out. I'll probably just dab a little black touch-up paint in there just so they don't stick out as much, because right now they're really visible, especially on a black car. Side, believe it or not, was not as bad as the passenger side. Okay. All right, so we got the entire car deconned. We clayed it, we iron deconned it, we got the tar removed off the rockers and behind the tires. So next step, we're gonna get this car dried, and then I can inspect the paint and see what we think we're going to wind up doing here as a correction process. So I'll get the car dried, and then I will check back in with you, and I'll kind of show you what the paint looks like now that it's nice and clean, and we'll be able to see a lot of the imperfections. Okay, so the car is now dry, and we are ready to inspect the paint and just kind of give it a once over, get a feel for what this is going to need. Now from back here, it looks pretty darn good. But as you get closer to it, we're able to see, this is where I was before, we're able to see all of those marks in the paint. So basically the entire car looks like this. And it's gonna be hard to see the white, but if you follow the light, you can see that there's some haziness there. So the black, everything is covered with these small scratches, which aren't a huge deal because that shouldn't take much to correct out. It's not like we're dealing with really deep scratches that we might have to wet sand, but I think this is gonna correct pretty well. There are 2 areas to address, well, not for me to address, but that the owner showed me. And the first one was, I believe, down the bottom here of the door, starting to get some bubbles happening there with some rust. So we'll just make sure we avoid that area when we are polishing. You can see the rock chips that are down here, which I said we could use some black touch-up paint to at least hide those. There's some chips that are up a little bit higher on the door. And the other area that the owner showed me is on the passenger side behind the window here. And let's see if the camera can pick that up. Right, let's see, where are you? Right here. In this area right here, there's a bubble in the paint. Now, he said he already had it to the body shop for a second time for them to try to fix that bubble. There, you could probably see it there now. And he said it came back. So we'll just make sure, again, we'll tape that off and just put a piece of tape on it to remind us so I don't forget when I'm coming around with the buffer. But just so we don't hit that, because it would look really bad if I hit it with a buffer and it peeled the paint right off. So we're gonna avoid that like the plague. Like I said, the rest of the car just has a lot of washing marks. There's something bigger going on right here. You can see that as the light picks up on it. It looks like just a towel mark, just a dirty towel. Sides, like I said, it's basically just small surface imperfections. I'm probably gonna start with 3D Speed and one of the HDO pads, orange maybe to begin with, because that's a little bit less aggressive, and if I need to, move on to a blue or Eurofiber pad. It's really, well, I see a spot here too. It looks like someone tried to wipe something out right there. Looks like there might have been some something that was stuck to the paint right there, right in this area right here. Maybe some tree sap or something that kind of etched a little bit into the paint right there where my light's shining. So we're actually coming up on the end of the day today. This car is actually scheduled for tomorrow, but we finished up a little early today on the vehicles that we had scheduled, and they were able to bring the Camaro in a little bit earlier today, which was nice because I was able to get it washed, prepped, so tomorrow I could just start off with a test spot, figure out my routine, and get polishing on the paint. I don't think it's gonna take too long to go over the paint. I mean, quite a few hours, but it's not like I'm gonna have to do multiple, at least I hope so, not multiple passes on the vehicle, maybe 2 times around the car. But we're just gonna let this thing air dry the rest of the way. It's still got some wet spots on it, and by tomorrow it should be nice and dry. As I'm walking around, I'm seeing a lot of water spots on the trunk lid. So it's gonna, I mean, it needs some loving, that's for sure, but hopefully by the end of this detail, it's gonna look like a totally different car. So stay tuned, we'll be back tomorrow, and we will get to rolling on this. We still have the engine bay to clean. We have the interior to go over, as well as the paint correction and the ceramic coat.